Hey, welcome to My Chinese History. Today we are talking about Nvwa.
Yes, today we're gonna talk about Nvwa.
Nvwa, the second Chinese sovereign.
Some people say she doesn't belong to the three sovereigns. Some people do. We're gonna explain why. But most people think she is one of the three sovereigns. Actually, today I'm gonna explain two completely different stories of Nvwa. One is the most well-known and the other one is pretty dark, or probably the reality. So we're gonna start with her name first, Nvwa. So what do you think those two words mean? At least you know what Nu means, right?
Yeah, I know that Nu in Chinese means woman, or I guess female. Wa reminds me of a certain movie made by James Cameron.
Wow.
Awa from the Avatar movie made in 2009.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with the Wonder Woman version first.
Okay.
Some scholars believe Wa is a sound conversion from another word.
Oh, in a different
Hua.
language?
No, still in Chinese. But Hua means convert, and it can also mean breed.
Like a religious conversion?
Not a
Or
religion, more like a materials conversion.
like fire
or elements.
or-
Yes, like that.
or like air to water, ice.
Something like that. Chinese people, some people call her Empress Wa Huang,
Hua Huang means empress?
Empress of creation.
Ooh.
So the origin of her story. Remember in the last episode we talked about Fuxi, right? We mentioned that she might be the sibling of Fuxi, younger sister, or she's just from a different tribe. The one we learned from school, elementary school, is so before Nvwa and Fuxi and everybody else, there was a titan called Pangu. Pangu, he actually created earth, heaven, mountains, river. And after he died, his body, different parts, become either moon, sun, all these different elements in nature. His head becomes forests.
That's really weird because there's a very similar story in the Norse mythology about a giant whose body breaks apart and creates...
Gaia?
No. Gaia's like the mother goddess. Like in Norse mythology, there's a giant and he gets killed and basically different parts of his body turn into different creatures. And the funny part is that human beings on Earth are represented, they're believed to have come from the sweat from his armpit.
Interesting.
Yes. But it's weird because the Chinese one has the same...
Anyway, after he created everything, he died. We didn't learn where did Nvwa come from at the beginning. We just learned that after Pangu died, she was just alone on Earth and she was just walking around. But there is no human, just herself.
Yes.
So she's walking by the Yellow River alone, and all of a sudden she feels so lonely when she look at her own reflection in the water. And then she realized that she must do something. I want to create something just like me, be my company. And then she found there's some mud next to the river, yellow mud. And then she started to use her own image reflection as a reference and shape those mud into her shape. After she made the first one, she put the mud thing.
Probably more like clay humans.
Yeah, the clay human. She put the first clay tiny human on the ground, and he becomes alive.
So if I were Nvwa, then those tiny clay humans would be about this big.
Yes, probably that big. And then she kept working day and night. And then she's tired. She's like, I'm creating all these things. This is consuming all of my time. I'm too tired. Thought of another trick. Just use the whip, like a tree branch, and then dip in the mud and then splash, and all those mud spots splash to the ground, turns to human. Well, that's something related to, class. So ancient emperors were like, those emperors, higher class people, were actually handcrafted by Nvwa, but the inferior, normal, regular people are just the mud spots. So there are several main achievements. First, created human. And then the second one is to mend the sky, mend the heaven.
How did she do that?
You should ask, why would she do that?
Also,
what happened
why?
to the sky?
Yeah, what was wrong with the sky?
One day, the god of water and the god of fire started a huge fight. The god of water actually lost the battle, and so the god of water was really embarrassed and resentful also. He actually bumped his head to the supporting pillar, to one of the supporting pillars of the whole world. Because there were 4 supporting pillars between heaven and earth. He broke one of the pillars, the one he bumped into. So the heaven started to tilt. Maybe it's because of rain. Rain comes from above, so they think there are water above the sky. So when the sky is tilted, the water just poured down on earth, which caused a huge flood, and that is killing people on earth.
No, not the clay people.
Yes, that's what Nvwa thought.
No.
They were like, you two guys fight, why are you killing my people? People are dying. One is because of the flood itself. Another is that the survivors were forced to go to higher ground, like go to the mountains, top of mountains. But those are the territories of monsters, like wild animals.
That's really interesting.
So those wild animals were started to attack human beings and eat them. And while in the flood, there was a huge black dragon, and
Chinese style?
Yeah, there are good and bad dragons, even Chinese dragons. Black dragon is always bad most of the time. The first thing Nvwa did was actually to kill that black dragon. After that, she found a giant turtle in the ocean. She cut off one of the turtle's legs and used it as a supporting pillar. Some stories said that actually the turtle offered one of his legs voluntarily. But anyway, she used it. Then she found those colored stones and melted them and then started to fix the hole on the sky. Monkey King is also related.
I wanted to know I think that's where I recognize her name from that book.
Yes.
Journey to the West.
Monkey King was converted from a rock, right?
Yeah.
They say actually that's one of the 5 colored rocks left by Nvwa when she was trying to fix the sky.
Oh, so she forgot one. She
forgot. There are many ones she forgot maybe. They're hiding in different corners of this world.
Those monsters that were attacking those people, are they related to that really ancient book of Chinese monsters that you told me about?
山海经.
Yes.
There was also record about Nvwa in 山海经, but I'm gonna cover that in the other version of her story. Those are the common stories we know, right, about Nvwa. Also the things we learn from elementary school. Those stories are amazing, but the legends, there is always true story behind the legend. So think about that. We just talked about that Nvwa is always excluded from 3 emperors. Why?
因为她是女人.
Yes, exactly. Because she is a woman. But why there is a story about a woman? In ancient time, we only recognize mothers.
Oh, so in English that would be matrilineal?
All human beings' clans were like that. Started with mothers first. Mothers being female being the leader of the tribe. Ancient time, people were matriarch because men had to hunt and they're gonna die easily. A woman will need to have babies and they need to stay at a safe place when they're pregnant, so they always survive. From Nvwa's story, we can clearly understand that she must be one of the 3 emperors. It's just because later on, the transition from matriarch.
From a transition from a matriarchal society to a patriarchal society.
Patriarchal society. Boys were like, why would we need to include a woman? Like, imagine what actually happened when this transition happened. We can imagine that she might be the last leader of matriarch society. And afterwards, the transition happened. So we still need to start with her name first, Nvwa. We just explained the Wa means conversion or breeding. From the character, let's see this Chinese character, the right part. That's actually, in ancient time, it represents the patterns of frogs.
What?
The sound of Wa is the same as frog. Why we name a woman an ancient
woman frog?
Because it's related to reproduction worship in ancient times. What's the feature of frog? Female. It can lay off a lot of eggs one time. So that means it can reproduce rapidly, massively. That's why you can see from this painting, this is an Asian painting. She's got a big belly.
Yes.
But tiny, skinny limbs, just like a frog.
Right. Oh, that's very clever. Plus, frogs sometimes swell their throat out and look maybe like they're pregnant, even though it's just the males that do that.
That's possible. That's possible, totally. Nvwa is not half human, half snake. Instead, she's half human, half frog, which might be weird,
Sexy.
but that might be the truth.
So, what happened next? Why does it matter if her name means conversion or frog breed?
You remember, like last episode, we said that Fuxi and Nvwa, they're a couple. What's interesting is that in history, the records of Fuxi are way more detailed than the records of Nvwa. What do you think is the reason for that?
I have two guesses. Either sexism or maybe she's older.
Smart! Sexism, of course, that's possible. Another one, she might be older than Fuxi, so the records about her got lost. That's also reasonable because she was in a matriarchal society. That was way before men-leading society.
Yeah.
The earliest record story about Fuxi we can find on ancient Chinese books, probably like 2,000 years ago. But the one about Nvwa is probably over 3,000 years ago. Remember Panggu. So we're just gonna explain a little bit about his story so that we can explain about Nvwa. He is a titan. He's sleeping for a long time. And one day he woke up, but he could see nothing but darkness around him.
Ooh, scary.
And the air is thick, not moving around. He decided to do something. So he racked the thing around him. He didn't know what it was, but he just racked it with an axe. And then he could see light. So from that process, Panggu, what does that process sound like?
Birth.
Exactly. So it's like a fetus from a womb and passing through the birth canal, and then he sees the light. So what does that mean?
That we should all be grateful to our mothers.
Exactly. That means Nvwa might be the mother of Panggu, because since she was the only female mentioned in one of those three Asian emperors. You know what Panggu did next? After he opens up everything, he just stands in between the heaven, the upper part, and then the bottom part, and then he grows like several feet, maybe a day.
Oh my.
So he's just standing there, tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. So the sky like rise up so high. So basically, he broke the mother.
Does
that also mean men start to overthrow?
Yeah, that does seem very like a poetic representation of that, like man being born from the woman, but then like, you know, taking over afterwards. That could be very poetic.
Remember you mentioned about Shanghai Jin.
Yes.
That ancient book about Chinese geography, geology, and different monsters, minerals, resources, location. It mentioned about Nvwa, but it only mentioned the organ of hers.
Which organ?
Intestine.
Ew. Why?
So it mentions that there are gods, 10 of them. They're called the Intestine of Nvwa. So what does that remind you of?
Did
So
she give birth to 10 different people?
First thing I can think is that Nvwa died. She's probably dismembered or cut open. So let's combine all those clues we just analyzed together. So the original story, the true story, might be that Nvwa was actually the last leader of matriarchal society. We still keep the stories about her making human, creating human. It's because men wanted to remind women the only value is to reproduce.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, she might have created everything, invented all those writing system, maybe bagua or the marriage system, everything. And also, maybe she led up some rescue of civilization when a natural disaster happened. That's why there was a story about her fixing up the sky. There might be a meteor shower or something like that.
Oh my god!
And she tried to build shelters for people. And then later on, those guys, they were so jealous, or maybe after she invented all those different tools, it's less risky for men to go outside to hunt, or they can actually plant vegetables. They learn how to plant, how to be a farmer. So men were able to survive. Time goes by and they are more violent. They started to think of overthrowing Nvwa, and eventually they did that. That's why her image was changed. She turned to be half snake, half human. What does snake remind you of in terms of reproduction, worship, penis? They also made Nvwa the wife of Fuxi.
Oh, I feel so betrayed right now. Like in the previous video, you were telling me all these things, and then secretly.
Well, this is just the dark version. There's no like proof. We just use the clues, all the different stories we have to imagine. Oh, by the way, the mending sky thing. Scientists found a site, an ancient site, where they found a lot of massive crucibles. And it's probably over 10,000 years ago. And they also found a lot of like the impact crater. And they found that in ancient time there might be a huge asteroid or just a meteor shower hit that place, caused the disasters. That's also aligned with the ancient story of what happened when before the heaven got tilted.
So they would be like, the sky is falling, and it was.
And the asteroids may contain water. They contain ice, right? From Nvwa's story, we learned that we should respect a woman. Next episode, we probably gonna talk about the last sovereign, one of the 3 sovereigns called the Shen Nong. Anyway, if you are interested, please subscribe.
There's a lot more to learn.
Bye bye.